Have you ever looked in the mirror at midnight and felt like you weren't the only face staring back? This isn't a ghost story. It's just a flicker of truth behind the person you work so hard to be. Each day someone else is breathing, watching you. Not good, not bad. Just forgotten for too long. The West calls that presence the shadow. Carl Jung and his colleague Marie-Louise von Franz used this word for the darker side of the self. But dark doesn't mean evil. Dark only means unlit. It's the parts of us we haven't named yet haven't let in. The shadow is a locked room in the house of the soul where we stash everything that was mocked forbidden or didn't fit the mask we learned to wear as kids. We pretend the room vanished, but it didn't. It's been waiting for us to open the door. From childhood on, we get very clear messages sometimes without a single word. A frown when we cry. A head shake when we're too curious. A mantra, boys don't cry, girls shouldn't be angry. Be quiet if you want to be good. We learn fast. To be loved, we show one part and hide the rest. The good part is displayed like a bright living room, polite, diligent, cheerful. The rest is pushed to the basement, anger, envy, confusion, and even bold sparks like creativity or the urge to try something different. It isn't that parents are cruel. They too hid pieces of themselves to be loved. But each time we shove a piece of our nature into the dark, the room grows thicker. Here's the twist. The shadow isn't a dumpster. It's more like a treasure vault under dust. True, there are boxes labeled anger, resentment, the shame we can't bear to face. But right beside them sits a crate called courage, talent, curiosity, locked up because we feared being called show-offs. The shadow, in Jung's view, is structural part of the whole. Without it, we can't be complete. Just as a photo needs darkness for light to pop, the soul needs shadow to understand the brightness of its own light. Ignore your shadow long enough, and it won't stay quiet. It starts speaking in rough languages. A sudden outburst at someone you love after a day of "I'm fine." A spiral of self-blame over a small mistake. An empty feeling when others succeed, and a secret dislike of yourself for being jealous. That's the signal the room is crowded. What you locked away is suffocating. The more you turn away, the more black and spreading the shadow becomes. One day it takes the wheel, you act against your values, or drop into doubt and despair. No one wants that, but no one escapes it by pretending half a person is enough. Another elegant mechanism of the shadow is projection. We hurl our disowned parts onto others, then punish them for showing us what we won't face. We scorn the bragger because we wish we dared name our wins. We roll our eyes at the crier because we were taught tears are weakness. We mock the friend who quits to travel a year because a wild voice in us longs to do the same, and we strangled it. Projection spares us the discomfort of looking within, but it wounds our relationships. People turn into error mirrors, not companions. We pass each other armored and alone. So what do we do with the dark? Destroy it? No, the shadow isn't an enemy, it's a messenger. It says something unloved is trying to come home. The first act isn't to fix, but to recognize. Recognize there is anger, shame, a buried talent. Recognition lets us name it. Naming makes it less foggy. With a kinder gaze, the shadow stops pounding on the door. Sit beside it the way you'd sit with a frightened child, and it softens. Why does this matter so much? Because you can't truly grow by polishing only your bright side. A tree isn't just leaves. It has roots, and roots live in soil dark and unseen. If you want to stand through life's weather, your roots must go deep. The shadow is where you root. Wholeness isn't perfection. It's the courage to be many-colored, many-layered, and still worthy of love. When you return to your own shadow, you don't just heal yourself. You ease your relationships because you project less and stop asking others to carry what you refuse to hold. Tonight, try 1 minute. Turn off the lights, breathe slowly, and ask what inside me isn't allowed to speak. Don't force a pretty answer. Accept a whisper, I'm tired. I'm scared. I want to sing. I crave freedom. Just listen. That alone is the first beam of light into the locked room. And maybe there in the darkest corner, you'll find a key you dropped years ago. If part 1 is the moment your hand rests on the doorknob of that inner room, then shadow work is the gentle turn, the open, the step inside. No drama, no sledgehammer, just a return. Jung called this journey individuation, the process of becoming yourself more whole each day. Shadow work is the quiet labor of that process. It won't make you someone else. It hands you back your original shape, less bent by expectations. The goal isn't to vanquish darkness, but to accept and integrate it. When you dare to name what's unfinished, unloved, or unforgiven in you, you begin a kind of emotional alchemy. The base metal of anger, shame, envy, placed in the furnace of awareness and kindness, smelts into wisdom, the edges of courage, and the depth of compassion. You may feel the benefits early. First, your mental breathing slows. You stop chasing a likable version of you for approval. You sit beside your whole self instead. Self-acceptance stops being a slogan and becomes bodily. Shoulders drop. Your brow softens, a small smile appears when a thorny thought passes, and you don't scold yourself for it. From here, mental health mends steadily. You quit bandaging symptoms and start tracing roots. Why do my co-workers' humble brags sting? Why am I wiped out after mom calls? Why do my own tears set me off? The answers rarely live in today. They lie in old maps we drew as kids when we learned that love required hiding a part of who we are. Shadow work lets you lay those maps under today's light. You don't tear them up. You redraw them, extend roads, change direction where needed. As you accept every shade of yourself, you grow more generous with the world. Relationships start to heal. Why less projection? Before you snapped at blunt people because your own bluntness was banished. Now that you've welcomed that part home, they're less threatening. They're simply living their peace. Interaction softens. You say, I feel uneasy, instead of, you're wrong. Ties strengthen through honest conversation. And creativity returns. When the fear of ridicule loosens, an old pen in a drawer calls your name. A melody you've held down for years begs to rise. Creativity isn't just art. It's how you rearrange your life, test a new path, pitch a small idea in a meeting, learn an instrument, or simply ask a different question. To begin shadow work, you don't need ritual. You need time, sincerity, and a gentle discipline. Start by noticing your automatic reactions. Where do you bristle? Where do you shrink? Where do you say it's fine while your gut knots? Each signal is an arrow toward the inner door. At night, write a few unpolished lines. No editing, no spell check. Write as if to a friend who promised not to judge. Next, watch when someone irritates you. Don't rush to condemn them. Ask in that behavior, what part of me am I seeing that I haven't allowed? Answers won't always come at once. But the right question is already a lamp. On another evening, sit quietly for 5 minutes and call your childhood self. Ask, what did you have to hide to be called good? Maybe tears, maybe loud laughter, Maybe competitiveness. Listen, then say the sentence you needed back then. You're okay. You're lovable even when you're like this. When emotions run hot, express them through art. Paint a thick black stroke. Strum a chord again and again. Hum in the shower. Not to show off, to allow. Art is a safety valve, a pipe that lets stuck energy flow again. And in daily life, keep a small habit. Ask yourself a few questions. How do I think others see me, and why does that matter to me? What do I believe is the worst trait I have? Which memory still makes me blush? Who do I envy, and what sleeping dream in me borrows their face? What am I afraid of? And if it happened, what would I truly lose? These aren't charges, they're openings. You'll notice your confidence changing texture. It used to be a hard shell. I'm fine, don't touch me. Now it's the ability to be touched without shattering. It's knowing you have both light and dark and can stand between them. You share yourself more freely because you're no longer performing. You stop hiding in nice or strong as costumes. You're human, that's all. And that's all is what reaches others most. When you're honest about your fears and hopes, you create a safe space where other people can breathe too. Shadow work isn't a straight line. There will be days you feel you've slid back short-tempered, like before, crying over small things. Don't judge. Waves return so you can go a layer deeper. Each loop grows another root. Each root steadies you. You won't sprint, you'll walk sure-footed. No miracles promised, just a life with a foundation where light and shadow share a table talk and mature together. Let's go deeper through a near-life story. Minh is 42, manager of a team of engineers. He lives tidily, calendar locked like a metal box. Everything hums until the weekly meeting where Hui, a younger teammate, chokes up over a project snag. Only a few tears, but Minh's blood surges, throat dries, and he barks hard as stone. Be professional. The room freezes. That night he drives home, heart still racing. He doesn't know why he overreacted. That's the crack in the door. Shadow work often starts there, not when we're inspired, but when we trip. The stumble is the spark. At his kitchen table, lights dimmed. Minh opens a notebook. First line. What upset me? His hand is more honest than his head, I'm afraid. Afraid of what? Losing control, being seen as weak. A strange memory floats up like a bubble 10 years old, crying over a bad grade. His father looked long, voice low, not loud, but heavy. Boys don't cry. That sentence froze his tears and froze something soft inside him. He sent softness into the shadow. When Hui cried, Minh didn't just see Hui. He saw that 10-year-old in someone else's face, the part of himself he abandoned. That's projection at its purest, punishing the other, because their face is too true a mirror. Seeing this, Minh drops the self-indictment. Hand on chest, slow breath. Emotional alchemy begins in breathing. Instead of suppressing, he stays with the feeling. Anger seen under a softer light loses its spikes. Base metal meets the fire. A few days later, Minh tries a Jungian practice, active imagination. Eyes closed, he invites 10-year-old him to sit in an inner room across from him. No judgment, just seeing. The kid is quiet, then whispers, "I'm scared of being mocked." Minh says what no one said back then. "You're allowed to cry. You're not broken when you cry." The boy's shoulders fall. That night, Minh writes a letter to his 10-year-old self, admitting the shame clamped in his chest for 32 years. The letter isn't magical, but it opens a pipe. Next morning at the office, he feels steadier. He asks Hui out to the cafe by the gate. A short apology, without excuses. "I overreacted. I'm learning to sit with feelings." Hui looks up, eyes wet but lighter. A new cord ties them honesty. In the nights that follow, Minh watches his dreams. Jung saw dreams as mail from the unconscious, the shadow sending signs. Minh dreams he's in a big house. The living room is bright, but the stairs to the basement are locked. He hunts for a key, afraid and curious. He opens the door and finds boxes stacked, anger, shame, desire, and strangely music. He wakes with a jolt. Music. In high school he loved guitar, but in college he shelved it to focus on a career. A joy that used to be a best friend got locked in with the bad emotions. The shadow didn't just hold trash, it kept the flame he snuffed out. On the weekend, he pulls the old guitar from under the bed. The strings are rusty, the intonation off. But a real smile rises. He strums 3 chords for an hour. Not for the internet. For flow. That's alchemy too, turning stuck feeling into sound, motion, breath. Change doesn't arrive like fireworks, it lands like steady rain. At home, he tries speaking to his mother differently. Before, any parenting advice from her made him stiff and combative. Now he listens and says, "I get that you worry. I'll think about it, but I want to do it my way." Boundaries drawn soft but clear. With his team, he adds a small ritual at the end of each meeting, 2 minutes for everyone to name one thing they're proud of and one thing that's hard. Not long. No pressure, just a safe space for light and shadow to share a table. Oddly, productivity doesn't drop, it rises. Fewer repeated mistakes because people flag issues earlier. Trust builds sustainable speed. Of course, Minh slips. A late email from a partner makes him snap again. But unlike before, he notices quickly. He steps into the hallway, hand on belly, 5 slow breaths. He whispers, "I'm scared." The ice cracks. He returns replies firmly but without attack. That's the skill of standing between light and dark, not denying, not letting the shadow drive. The shadow is invited to the back seat. You keep the wheel. Each time Minh's roots grip deeper soil, you may find yourself in Minh, maybe your banned tears, your loud laugh, your need for recognition. Your task isn't to change the past, but how you walk with it. Treat every trigger like a firecracker that shows which room is still dark. Each light you switch on reveals not just a cowering monster, but often a child who wants to play, or an old instrument calling your name. Then shadow work stops being theory. It becomes life. It becomes how you return to yourself. By now, you've stood in that inner room long enough for your eyes to adjust. The rest isn't grand, it's precise. You learn to live with the shadow daily, like tending a garden that has flowers and damp soil. In the morning before your phone pulls you into reflex mode, place one hand on your chest and one on your belly. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6. In that breath, make a small vow today. I'll treat every discomfort as a mirror, not a verdict. Then step into the day. When a prick of irritability rises, greet it like an old acquaintance. "Oh, anger, you're here." You don't push it away, and you don't hand it the wheel. You buckle it into the back seat and keep driving. This is the art of staying at the subjective center, what Jung called a mobile center of consciousness, the ego humble enough to listen to the unconscious and steady enough not to be swallowed by it. At noon, revisit projection. Remember, the person in front of you is not you. They're just carrying a feature that activates the part you banned. When someone shows off instead of sarcasm, ask what dream in me wants a voice. When someone is fragile instead of sighing, invite your own softness back into the living room. Each time you do, you snip a strand of projection and give both of you back to yourselves. Relationships lighten. You stop meeting loved ones as error mirrors and start meeting them as humans growing with their own shadows. Toward evening, pick up a scrap of creativity you hid. Maybe a messy doodle, a few simple chords, a short paragraph with no polish. Don't let good murder true. Creativity here isn't a trophy case. It's the pipe that lets shadow energy flow. When the stream opens, stuck states morph, envy becomes the drive to learn. Shame becomes humility. Anger becomes a healthy boundary. That is emotional alchemy performed in the tiny kitchen of ordinary life. At night, write a few lines of a feeling journal. Skip the plot, touch the sensations. Where is your body tight? What image keeps looping? What word wants out? Let your hand lead. The hand is often truer than the head. Sometimes write to a younger you or to a trait you exiled. To the ambition I called ugly. To the tenderness I called weak. You're not grandstanding, you're acknowledging presence. In that moment of acknowledgement, a piece clicks back into place and the picture sharpens. If a dream visits, jot a few core images. Jung saw dreams as parcels from the unconscious. You don't need to decode them perfectly. Just open read aloud and let meaning seep over time. There will be slow days or stuck ones. Old reactions return, harsh words slip out, the room dims. Don't panic. Psyche doesn't change in straight lines, it spirals. You revisit familiar ground from a deeper layer. Hard days test whether the roots took. Ask, can I stand inside this feeling for 10 more breaths? Most times, yes. If sometimes the answer is no, find an ally, a safe friend, a therapist, a listening circle to borrow a shoreline through rough water. It's not go it alone or fail. It's open the door and add light when needed. Maybe the most beautiful gift of shadow work is how it redefines confidence. Confidence isn't armor anymore. It isn't never being wrong. Confidence is unlocking the basement, walking down with a lantern, knowing whatever you find is yours and nothing in your house needs to be annihilated. As you integrate the shadow, you don't just suffer less, you start to glow in your own way. Voice slow and sure, eyes less guarded, hands warmer when holding another's. You're not perfect, you're whole. And that's enough for a rooted life with leaves and flowers. If you must choose one step today, choose gentle honesty with yourself. Admit one thing you've banned and give it a small seat in your day. That alone changes you. The moment light touches the hidden, you stop running, you start returning. Individuation begins with returns like this, quiet, steady, and strong enough to shift your inner architecture. If this video was helpful, please like it, share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe so you don't miss more on Jungian psychology and the art of growing up, and comment with one little shadow you're ready to name tonight.